Yogi Berra once said, baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. The Pitcher's Dad podcast, hosted by Joe Lorenzini, has the mental half covered. His kids take care of the rest. And now, without further ado,
So thanks to the Sarah baseball team, that was a pretty good soundbite. Welcome, Adam Farb. How you doing? Thanks for coming on, man.
My pleasure.
I thought it'd be fun to get you on here and ask you some simple, just some baseball questions, right?
Sure.
I figure if there's somebody that knows, it's you, or at least in our experience, you've been pretty good to us, the Lorenzini family. And so, heck, man, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That was what was that, Monday night at the Boris. Joey was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I think he had given up a hit that was an asterisk, a chopper to cash, and William Walbridge took that 1-2. I don't know if we want to call it a slider, but it was in a closet because it was hanging up so much, and he damn near put it off that center field fence, and then they started chirping, put on the podcast. So I thought, hey, how funny, let's do it. All good times. That was a good game. What's new?
Things are good.
Okay.
Watched a lot of baseball the last couple of days. Got to see a lot of our guys.
Yeah, you were telling me before that how many guys you think, past, present, all that, are in the Boris right now?
Yeah, we counted. Someone asked me it yesterday, and I was curious, so I counted in the program. There's 49.
49. Wow.
49 current and
That's pretty good.
Former Alpha players.
Yeah. Here, push that towards you a little bit.
Yep,
there you go.
got it.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's kind of a cool tribute to the program, right? I mean, you've had some good dudes through.
Definitely.
You've had, that'll definitely be one of those topics where, I think when you're doing this, I know me as a parent, having a daughter and a son going through different programs, everybody has their own kind of like thought process on travel ball. And they think they know, right? Like, hey, Adam Farb did roll up in a really nice car, but it's not a Lamborghini, right? And I don't think it's paid for by on the backs of NCTB or Alpha Baseball. We've talked about this at length, the money that goes in and what it costs to do it.
Yeah, well, NCTB is my business, so
yeah,
it is paid for by that.
Okay. But it's not a Lamborghini.
It is definitely not.
Yeah.
But no, the high level of the travel teams, they don't make money.
Right.
Like they cost money.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the thing, right? I mean, traveling and getting to the East Coast is not cheap, rental cars, hotels, and all that stuff. So let's do NCTB first. I think I made some questions here because sometimes I try and come off the cuff, but I'm not that smart. So how did you come up with NCTB, the league, and now Alpha? How did that all start?
Obviously, three very separate things. NCTB was founded in 2005. At the time, I was coaching.
Okay. Where were you coaching at?
I was coaching. I started the first club program in the North Bay. It's called the North Bay Extreme. Started in 2000. Around that same time, I kind of made a career change. I had a concert business coming out of college. I had been after I sold that, kind of flamed out, burned out.
Mm-hmm.
Sold that in 96 or so. I'm doing a little bit of coaching. I'm working for the city of San Francisco, Department of Elections. In 2001, I got out of the corporate world, decided to do a little baseball camp business. It really just came to like, I'm doing well financially. This isn't something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
I want to do something I enjoy.
You were doing something for a living that paid the bills, but not sports. Okay.
Right. And it wasn't a good financial decision. I went from making, I think, $85,000 at 27 years old and single and having a good time to making $25,000 the next year, which for anyone familiar with the North Bay, that don't work.
Yeah. I don't think that covers the note at all.
So, I went broke.
Okay.
Like broke.
Okay.
Like repossessed car broke.
Oh, geez. All right. Yeah.
And then I grinded it out for a couple years. I'm doing this little club program. Club baseball is obviously very different back then. And I'm grinding out some lessons. Like I don't even know. Like I was doing enough to get by. So we'd go to these tournaments, and tournaments were very, very different back in 2003, 2004 than they are today. You would have to call a tournament director at 11 o'clock at night on a Wednesday to get your brackets and then have to communicate out to all your families. You would play triple headers that didn't count for anything on a Saturday.
Okay.
On Saturday night, you or a team parent would have to call the tournament director at 11:30 at night when the games ended to find out when you're playing the next day, which sometimes was 8 in the morning.
Wow.
So then you have to communicate it out to families of 12 and 13-year-olds who are probably in bed, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, technology, I guess, wasn't there.
It was, though, right? It's just,
okay,
that's how it, at one point that was probably true, but like we had the internet in 2004.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So I had an opportunity in 2005. I got a few dates at the brand new Big League Dreams Reading.
Okay. Yep.
And it was, to be honest, like when I first did it, like, oh, this will be a good little side hustle, right? I'd run maybe one tournament as a fundraiser for a club. And then I started to kind of put it together and okay, well, I think there might be something here
to it. Okay.
And put a business plan together. It was going to be to run those 10 dates in Reading, to go to some of the smaller parks, run a 16-team tournament in a weekend. And like, I think it can be more than a little side hustle. Like, I think there's a real business here. It was going to be the third business that I'd started at that point in my life.
And how old are you at that point?
I was in 2004, I was 32.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
The third business, that's
31,
good.
32.
Yeah. Okay.
And the thing that I took away from the first two is I didn't really have a business. I had a job, right? Because it wasn't going to survive without me doing everything.
Yeah.
It's why I burned out in the first one. And obviously, baseball camps and lessons, like your product is you.
Yeah. You are selling yourself, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I said I knew I was going to work, but that I wouldn't make that mistake in doing it. Obviously, the business plan gets thrown out the window. I happen to catch the right time. Travel ball boom happens. But the pitch was really like, hey, all these things that we go to tournaments and we bitch to each other about, let's just make tournaments like that.
And we'll fix what we're
right.
talking about.
Like I can put the scores online. You can get your brackets on Monday.
Right. Right. Yeah.
We'll have a real an event name. So
we'll call it something.
It feels cool, right? Like it feels more of an adventure for the kids and the families than April 13th, 14th.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And how did you ever look at softball? Like, I wasn't around in softball back then, but I don't know if it was similar, same, already doing.
Honestly, I don't know. Like,
Gotcha.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
I'm a baseball guy, and I'm sure it could have been done. I have no idea who the right players
it's
in the space were to navigate and make that happen, or what organizations.
Okay. Yeah.
So like I'm sure it could have been.
I don't know.
It just was never really my interest.
Yeah.
My interest was on the baseball side, and to be honest, like we never really stopped growing.
Yeah,
so,
it was just, it took
right?
off at that time. It was probably the right time.
Within a year of starting NCTB, the Twin Creeks complex kind of falls in my lap. Long story that's not that interesting, but and all of a sudden I've got to scale up to running 60-team tournaments, which is
6-0. Wow.
A lot more umpires, a lot, and we ended up a couple years later, doing an exclusive deal with them, which has lasted multiple deals through this day, to be the only baseball tournament provider. And they did that with us because we were filling the park. They make money when the park's full.
Is the park a privately owned place, or
it is? So it's county land.
Okay.
County land, privately owned.
Okay. And then what is the biggest logistic problem that was it umpires? Was it park? Like, what would you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's think of it. I mean, you played it with your kids. Like, it's location and field quality. Umpires are your first line of defense, and then who's going to be in it. So it's fields, umpires, customer service.
Yeah, because once you get the location, and then you get the reputation for hosting probably the better teams or whatever, then
or just for filling. So you know that
you're gonna
when you sign up, there's going to be a tournament.
No,
right?
that's a good point. Yeah, you don't even think. I mean, it's so expanded now that there's almost a watered down effect, right? There's so many teams, there's so much travel ball, and you hear people in that 40-year-old range where they're just like, man, I only had one all-star game, and I didn't have travel ball. And now I think when my kids get to the point when they're 40, who knows what it'll look like,
Not like this, probably.
No, it'll
Something
probably
different.
change, right?
Yeah.
So then, okay, NCTB starts, and then you said, did the league came before Alpha?
Well before Alpha.
Okay, so how did the league come about?
So you get into it,
And what is the league? I guess some people won't know what
so
that is.
the league is a program that's in year 12 right now. So, and I'll give you the history of it because it's kind of a cool story. It's the top, quote unquote, the top 52 eighth graders in Northern California. Obviously, we don't get everybody. I don't mean to say like excluding everyone else.
I feel like you have gotten,
we've gotten most, but like
90-something
there's people
percent.
for whatever reason don't do it over the years. No big deal.
Yeah.
So we play, it's the same format we've had since the first year, actually, which is
That's cool.
5 weekends spread throughout the spring so that we were trying not to go heads up with the teams that are our customers.
Because you are taking players from
Right,
various travel ball
They
teams
all play for somebody.
that all want to play in tournaments
Right.
also. Okay,
Right.
yeah.
So it was intended to supplement, and I'll tell you how it came about. There's a gap, 8th grade spring, always has been. Half of their teams, with the way baseball divides ages, end up being freshmen in high school. Half of them are 8th graders, and there's this like, God, the 14U competition sucks.
Right.
And we'd always talk about
Because
it.
it's
you know,
weird.
it's just watered down, and it's a big
Yeah.
field and all that. And so we're like, all right, like, what if we do like a league for teams? This is 3 years before we actually got to the league. So we did a team league, 8 teams. Let's get 8 really good teams.
Bring your team.
Bring your team, right? We'll do double headers. We'll whatever. It was an absolute circus. Like teams are canceling at the last minute.
Was that the gauntlet or that was something different?
The gauntlet was different.
Okay, that was after, right?
So we did that for 2 years. The first year was just messy. The second year, one of the teams in it was from La Miranda.
Okay.
Their head coach for that La Miranda 14U team was Mike New, who's now the head coach at Cal. Right at the time, the head coach at Diablo Valley College. Their team was loaded. Nico Horner was on that team. Nick Madrigal was on that team. Joe Demers is on that team. Trevor Larned. You're talking three or four
dudes that are actually playing in the
three
big
or four
leagues
big
now.
leaguers on that team. Okay, they beat the holy hell out of everybody all through that spring. And I knew those guys. I'd coached them in the Team USA stuff, and Mike's obviously a wonderful coach.
Yeah, good dude.
But this doesn't seem good for them.
Yeah,
right. Like they need to play against each other.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't know that I think a team league is therefore the way to do this, because clearly this thing where everyone's going to unite on one super team isn't going away.
Yeah, right.
So like, what if we just kind of got them together and mixed them up, right? And that's, so we tested it the next year. We did an event called Players Weekend. Couple of big leaguers from that, Ryan Kreidler and Andrew Vaughn were both in that.
Nice.
We did it at the high school I was coaching at Drake High School. Brought in Domingo Ayala, like had a great time, and we even had some rain that weekend, got kind of dampened, but like I just remember walking away from the weekend going, well, this works.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the next year, we decided to launch the league. Obviously did a lot of groundwork with the club teams that existed. Didn't get 100% support, but we got enough. Yeah. Really only 1 or 2 clubs that fought it.
Yeah, because I'm sure, right? I mean, I can think of Joey's year, and he played on a certain team with a certain persona, and they're like, they had to finally come to realization that like getting selected for the league was a real nice, accolade or whatever.
I think by the time, Joey came through it, like it's pretty well established at that point.
Yeah, and it was like, hey man, if you hold the kid out of that,
everyone had to adapt in the same way that like we have to adapt to area code tryouts, right? At the alpha level or PG National or whatever. Yeah,
you can't hold yourself in such a high regard that
event,
you're gonna,
right? Like
hold it against
there's
the
a couple
kid.
things you just have to work around.
Cool.
And I think we had made it something that you better work around,
right?
Or they're going to leave your team and go play for somebody else,
right?
Like parents don't like being held hostage.
No, I mean it's a two. I mean, let's be honest, right? It's a double-edged sword, I think, because if you let your kid go to the league, then he plays with all these studs, then there is an option to go play on a team. That comes
Sure.
later, with the
But
alpha.
you can't hide them.
But you can't hide them. Yeah, right,
Like,
right.
do you think people aren't going to know about a good player because you try to stash him away
Well,
till he was a
if you're
senior? Like,
yeah, if
how do
you're
you think
a good
that
player,
works?
yeah,
Like,
if you're a good player, you're also going to know who the other good player. Most parents, I mean, especially now, like they know. So
and they, the whole reason that it becomes exciting is like for top players, certainly, like they end up being big fish in small ponds.
yeah,
And it's not challenging enough for them.
right.
Right? Like, oh, they're successful. Oh, they get all these accolades, but like they want to test themselves. Like that's what they're supposed to
For
be
sure.
doing. And it provides that environment. So the league came about as we had tested out the team thing and then, okay, like this could work better.
Right.
And some of it is just my mindset of like always having to tinker with things. And some of it is like we were trying to solve a really specific problem, which is how do we provide a supplement to the frankly mediocre competition that's happening in 8th grade summer.
Okay.
And it over time, I think it's when we started doing all the tryouts, like it became something more special and almost like the kids were showing up week 1 having already made it special in their minds.
Yeah.
Right.
I can think back to, I thought it was really cool how each team had a coach that, like Joey's coach was Bodie,
Yeah.
who's now a coach at Cal
He's the
also,
pitching coach
right?
at Cal, yeah.
So, and he was the first guy to, he treated Joey like not a man, you know what I mean? But he was like, hey
Right.
man, this is your, and it was kind of like, all right, sweet. It's your first time where the parent doesn't really talk to the coach.
Right.
And the coach, is this high level guy. I think at the time he was at Los Medranos or
He was
something.
at Los Medranos at the time.
And, had pitched and
Yep.
it was cool. It was like, hey, and then they get the college uniforms, right? Because they all, I think it was the Ducks, the Beavers,
Titans and the Commodores.
yeah. So is it still the same teams?
It is.
Oh, I mean,
The
and that
alums
was-
would kill me.
Yeah. So that was cool, right? So then you had Vandy, Fullerton, Oregon. And
Yeah, if you think back to
Oregon
when
State.
we did it, right? The people have asked me like, why'd you pick those teams? First of all, those 4 programs were really good back in what was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
It's 2013.
Yeah.
Right. 4 of the top programs had won national titles, and they have 4 different colors.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the
Ultimately,
standard. So
right?
they-
Yeah.
We need 4 different colors, and we want good programs.
Yeah. And I
and
mean,
it
it's a
wasn't
great-
anything more than that, right?
Yeah. And it was, I mean, they're obviously all still good programs, but just different, right? Times have
And
changed.
Oregon at the time, you're talking about Chip Kelly football. Like Oregon had the coolest uniforms.
Oh.
So like,
Yeah, and they still have some pretty cool unis, no doubt about it. I think
obviously Oregon baseball was just coming back
Okay.
to fruition when we did it. So
and now they're doing just fine.
now they're doing fine.
Yeah. So the league happens, and then how does Alpha? Because initially when we moved up here, we hadn't. I mean, living in the Bay Area, I don't think we had a real grasp on USA baseball. We definitely didn't have a grasp on the league. And I say I didn't have that.
Right.
It was kind of like, hey, Joey plays football, he plays basketball, he plays baseball. And so over this last week, we got to see some of his friends, childhood friends, when he played Sarah. And I thought, I was going down memory lane and like, man, he probably would have went to Sarah. He'd probably be on this team. Would he be where he's at now? And, I don't know, but I know this. It did seem like sports is different, and what I mean by that is it's not that the football coach here at Rockland doesn't want you to be there all summer. I think what I've noticed is that if you played football at Sarah, the summer program was a priority, or was, you weren't going to be allowed to go travel around and go to Florida or
Sure.
it'd be hard to do,
I mean, I think, having coached in high school, like, well, the multi-sport thing can be trickier than people,
Oh yeah. Hands down.
because even if you have good people who want to make it work, like it overlaps.
Yeah, we talked about a player this weekend, and he's now in college. He's at a great college, and he's played 3 sports, and he was a stud at all 3 sports.
Yeah.
And you hope that, hey, that person's gonna have a little extra in the tank but it's hard, right? Because it's
And you're given, people ask that question all the time, and you'll hear college coaches give the correct political answer, which is, oh, we love guys that play multiple sports. And they're full of it. What they mean is we love guys who are athletic enough to play multiple sports.
Yeah. We love that you could play another sport, and we'd like to see you play
and now you need to stop playing that sport and play our sport, right?
Right.
So, but it doesn't mean you can't make it. It just creates other difficulties, and it creates a different path, and you have to navigate it.
And that's the point I'm getting at, is that path. You see some kids who had phenomenal high school careers in multiple sports, and some dudes that didn't hinder them, and some guys you're like, hey, maybe that was the right choice anyways, because you weren't going to become the 98 mile an hour flamethrower.
I think it just comes to like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you want to play another sport, play the other sport. You only get to do this one time.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But understand the price of that, right? And,
I think
do that with open eyes. Because and you can't just say, well, I want to play another sport, so there is no price. It's not true.
Yeah, right. You're gonna miss, and that's the whole FOMO thing, right? About and we talked about this on some of the other podcasts where it's like 8, 9, 10. You should go to the wedding. You should not miss the funeral. You shouldn't miss stuff. I mean, even up till 12, I would argue, right? You can, when you get in high school, yeah, it means more because you're doing varsity, not varsity, whatever. But you're gonna have to pick what you're doing, because it's very difficult.
Well, I think when you're in a team sport, there is a shared commitment that's required, right? Like, I think we can all agree that what would be ideal for your family or your player is that everybody else shows up and you can come and go as you please. Right?
That's a great point. Yeah. You
right? But if you let everybody come and go as you please, you're never playing.
Well,
right?
and that brings up a great...
And now you're pissed and it doesn't serve your interest anymore. So you agree to give up a little bit of your flexibility and freedom because everybody else agrees to do it. And it becomes like, well, the coach says we have to do this. That's not what's really going on. What's really going on in this world is if you give people the option to do whatever the hell they want, they're going to do whatever the hell they want.
Well, that's the great example is I had a deal with a client. And I think I had asked you, I said, hey, we're flying out to Georgia. Can I leave on Wednesday? Because I think Joey's going to pitch on Tuesday. And you're like, no, and like that was always your hard rule, right? Like, hey, you're here for the whole week.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, they'll say, hey, hey, a Farb, or hey, Alpha. And I'll say, hey, just understand the tournament's Monday through Friday. You're expected to be there Monday through Friday.
Yep.
And we didn't have the PO role really until this last year. I mean,
right.
We had that ability to hit and play, or Joey had the ability. But as a parent, you're thinking, hey, my kid might get in the game. I want to be there. So you want to be there.
And I totally but
it makes sense what you're saying.
It's reasonable, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, this is what you're doing in the sport. This is what you have to do.
Yeah.
And you're not getting the whole experience. You're just showing up and being a showcase guy. And like, there are tons of teams that do that. That's not our thing.
Yeah, no,
right?
and I would say, the proof is in the pudding. If you look at the team, just the Alpha team in general, you can go back probably as far as you want, at least in our time here, that there's been some really good players who just weren't on the team anymore because they didn't buy into that,
Of course.
And so to your credit.
And I mean, obviously Joey your son had an interesting ride because of his injury.
Right.
Where, I mean, he was with us for 3.5 years, but he played 4 or 5 events, right?
Right.
He played the 8th grade UBC. He played the freshman UBC when he was already hurt. And then
so he plays Florida at the end of 8th grade summer. They win that.
Florida in the fall, right?
Yep. That's fall freshman year.
Freshman year. Plays plays one event in the summer, right?
Yep.
And then doesn't play the rest of freshman summer. Doesn't play sophomore fall. Doesn't play sophomore summer.
He has a surgery.
Doesn't play junior fall. And then his first live at bats were January of junior year, right? And
which is cool, right?
He hits 90 and he's so happy, and then he played 2 events plus the Potters game last summer. Like, that's it. That's his whole ride. And so you got to see the beginning and you got to basically see the end, but you kind of missed the middle, right?
Oh, 100%.
That team never stays together with that many high profile guys if they didn't love each other.
I mean, it's the glue, and I talked about this, and how this podcast came was like writing these blogs, and I'll never forget the first USA tournament when the boys won. And Joey was filled with this mixed emotion, because I think Troy or somebody said, "Hey, I'm going to bring you home a medal," And he was like, "Yeah." And you could just see his just deflated inside because he's like, "I should be there. I should be there." And he wasn't ready, and he wasn't ready to go back. And And so, yes, you want to win for sure. You want to have a good time, but that was a hard thing.
Yeah.
And by the time he came back, right, some players had changed and some pieces got moved,
Absolutely.
but the majority of the team,
the core of that team held together from start to finish.
And it did feel, we're not playing for you anymore, and I don't have a reason to blow smoke up your, but I thought we had a good vibe. Like the parents, I still really appreciate all those parents. We didn't have, you think of like Rod or just some fun parents.
You get this wild mix of parent personalities.
100%.
And
SoCal, North
eventually,
California.
you'll have a family that it just doesn't fit their vibe, right? It's not the right fit.
Yeah.
They might be a good kid. He might be a great player.
Yep.
But you ain't right for them and they ain't right for you. The one thing that I think we've tried to bring is some clarity to it. Like, here's who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, we're not trying to be them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing against them.
Yeah, right.
But
right.
If we were trying to be them, I should tell them you to just go play for them.
Yeah,
right.
There's different teams that have different. Yeah.
So what can you do when you're Northern Cal based and you're someone like me that actually values and thinks it's important for them individually, right? Not transactionally, but individually, to actually be on a team and care about a team. And you think, yeah, we have all these players that are lab rats and we can get them biomechanically better and they can get stronger. And that's a good thing to do. But no, they don't know how to win.
Right.
Right. And then they get to college and everyone goes, oh, nobody's teaching them that. Well, no one's teaching them that because it's not incentivized.
Right.
Right. Like, what's incentivized? Go throw your 2 innings and get the hell out of there. Right. Go throw 93 and don't worry about how many strikes you threw or who you beat and whether your team won that game. And I'm not even saying that.
And we're talking about that's like showcase baseball.
Showcase baseball.
So out and show yourself, and if you win or you don't win, who cares? As long as you did good in your time.
There is some showcase value to that, but there's this whole other side.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't personally want to do it if there's not that whole other side.
No, and I think we saw that unfortunately we didn't win this year for a three-peat when we the Lorenzinis were there, but boy, we had some great games at Cary where
we're in a 0-0 game in the bottom of the 6th inning in the championship game. Like, it's not like we weren't competitive in the tournament, right?
But I'm thinking back to you got Chase Bentley starting, and we're thinking, hey, okay, game 1, we know, and then just a early loss.
Yeah, we had a base running snafu. Chase pitched. We lose 2-1.
Yeah, Chase pitched phenomenal,
and then we have the big comeback in game 2.
But that's what I'm getting at, right? So you get kicked, and then. That's where the boys, and then game 2, we're down big.
Yeah,
and those guys
5.
were chirping. Remember the Florida Pokers or whatever they were. And I remember the boys kind of just looking at each other.
It's funny, I don't even remember who we were playing.
Yeah, I do. That's a parent thing though, right? Because you think,
and that's no disrespect to them.
No, they got a good team.
At that moment, it isn't about them. But it's about us and going hey, get our shit together.
I remember those kids because they were like, oh, ranked 1 for the S talking got good, right? And I think our boys look at each other like, what are we doing here? And then Porter ends up ripping off a couple hits, and Mace comes out and pitches great.
Yep.
Brock, it was just cool. It was cool. And then they went on a run, and then it was kind of like, not like, oh, you woke the draft, nothing. Cheesy, but it was a good.
I actually think they were all good
see.
Games. It was a fun run, and. But in any case, that's that part of it is cultivated, right? And cared about, and you don't always know. Yeah. But I do know that, if you remember that fall WWBA that they won as freshmen, that's an underdog. Let's be clear. We're considered a mom and pop shop, right? In the
among 8th grade,
big travel ball, right?
Yeah, somewhat unknown. Maybe
right.
I don't know.
And I'm sitting with, and
how many teams were in that tournament?
I don't remember, but a lot. And if you remember, it was also our first year going to the Jupiter tournament.
Yep.
And we came in 3rd.
Yep.
Right. So there's a little bit of who the hell are these guys? Right.
That was the older boys were at Jupiter.
The older boys made a run that same day.
Yep.
Right. And end up losing in the semifinal. And Jupiter is the tournament on the circuit. Like
Yeah.
the local kids from Northern California are not supposed to do that, right?
And to set that stage, I think you had thousands of pro scouts there. I mean, I don't even know how
that
many pro scouts.
That tournament is the only tournament that, like, if you only did one travel ball thing, do that just for the experience.
So we never got to do it
because of his injury,
but we got to go see it that 8th grade year, and it was insane. It was like, what is this? And on every field there was
changed a little bit, but if you go back to that, and it's only 3 years ago, every arm was 90 plus.
Oh,
every last one. Like, if you were 91, like, you felt like you weren't throwing hard enough.
Yeah. But every kid that went there uncommitted and did well had a call.
Yeah.
Or like area codes, probably similar too.
Yeah.
But it was one of those
big
ones.
Stage.
It's worth it.
It's a big stage. So we have this program noise. I didn't think we were going to win the freshman WWBA, right? Like that year. Like, I didn't think we had the team for it. We were missing a couple guys. That's how we ended up with the SoCal guys there, is like we were short some guys. And,
that's right.
And they kind of came as a group, right? And the groups meshed at some point. Like, the only thing I can say is, like, I was smart enough to realize that we caught lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And go, like, no, like, this is what got these guys together, and, like, we better hang on to that, or like this will all break apart.
Did we have 12 guys
12 guys or 11?
Alec Blair pitching the championship game.
Alec pitched the championship game.
Yeah, which is like, I was like, hey, it's like everybody's a pitcher, right? With 12 guys and however many games. But no, that was
I just remember we played the Canes Midwest in it, and the guy's like, how the hell do you guys have this arm left for the championship? Like, he doesn't pitch. He doesn't pitch.
His hat coming off every, because he's used to being out in center field.
Thank goodness because of the rain delays, we were in 5-inning games, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We played, remember the team that was...
if we never survived that, if we're playing 7-inning games.
No. Delaying, like, oh boy. Yeah, that was
the Puerto Rico team?
Yeah. And...
I had to calm down Chip's. I had to calm down Chip that
fired
day.
Up that day.
I'm like, Chip, like, we're about to take the lead. Like, the stalling's actually helping us. Like, calm down. I need you to calm down.
That was good, because Chip didn't really make too much about nothing ever. He was just very quiet and did his thing. And
you come to those things to play, and these guys are trying to stop you from playing. Right?
But they get like a 2-run lead, and then each batter would tie their shoes, and the coach he'd go out for a visit.
It was the best, most absurd stalling job I've ever seen. But man, it sure stopped once we took the lead.
Because then all of a sudden they had a little pep in their step. I thought about that this year. I think, was it Kentucky and A&M where they couldn't start a new inning?
I saw that.
And then it made me think of that. And I thought, oh boy, we know what that's like. So that's cool. Yeah, that's okay. So then Alpha does, and Alpha's doing good now?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think every time I look up, if it's somebody that I've heard about, they're on the team. So
I mean, the club space is interesting. It's summer's really short, right? And you put so much expectation into it. We put so much work into it. Families put so much into it. Like, it's 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, it's 6 weeks, and it's a 6-week sprint, but it's 6 weeks. And it is
a sprint. It's not
a 6 weeks where kids don't have anything else to do either. Right? This isn't old school college summer ball where you go off to the Northwoods and you're living in the backwoods of Wisconsin and you got nothing to do but play baseball and maybe fish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you might have to fly back for an area code tryout, or you're going to PG National, or your high school coach is demanding that you be at something, or you may play another sport, and everyone's trying to get their hooks into top athletes, right?
Yeah, right. And I think,
and they're all competing in a very short time frame, and there's no way to not overlap. So that creates some pressure. Family, you're talking about how much money it costs, getting off of work, like, not easy for everybody. So you have all this expectation going into it, and then kind of need to catch lightning in a bottle quick, right?
And be good.
And if you remember, Joey's team, your son's team, they win the freshman WWBA, and then we go to the UBC the next spring and stink up the joint.
That's right.
Right.
We did.
And like, what is happening here? Like, we have this great team, quote unquote. It didn't look like it, right?
Yeah, won the biggest tournament, and now I
think we went 1-2.
It wasn't good.
It was bad, right?
It wasn't good.
and it took some doing. Now Joey got dinged up and was out the rest of that summer, but I was with them. I wasn't coaching the team at the time, but I was with them when they were up at Oregon State, and I distinctly remember sitting with two of the guys and going like, "What the heck is going on here? Why are we not having fun?"
Yeah.
And I think it was Troy Yulson, who plays high school ball with your son.
Yeah.
Troy goes like, "I don't know, coach. Like in the fall, like we were just playing.
Yeah.
And like now we're ranked number this, and there's all this pressure." And I'm like, pressure? Like,
yeah,
we don't talk about anything other than be better tomorrow than you are today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know we were ranked number this. And like, I got to tell you something, like, I think they were like 7. I don't know. You might not be the 70th best team in the country right now. Like, who cares?
Yeah, right.
Like, who cares?
Right.
And like, so we got the boys together and like, all right, like we got to get back to being ourselves, right? Like, let's go out and be loose and have fun and let it fly a little bit. And it seemed to get better. And, they got hot as hell in Cary, obviously, and win, probably the toughest tournament in America to win.
Because everybody wanted to be there.
It's a 16-team invite-only tournament. It's all, almost all of the top players and teams
That's
are
at
there.
the USA Baseball Complex. It's some of the
fantastic.
nicest fields I think I've ever seen.
And then a week after that, running on fumes, they go and win the PG World Series.
That's right.
Right.
That's
so
right.
this team that stunk up the joint, and you probably had every parent going like, I don't know about this team, right? Like we might not be that good.
Yeah.
Like I hope I didn't put my eggs in the wrong basket, right?
Yeah.
And then they win 2 national titles, right? In a 2-week span.
It's wild. I mean, yeah, that team's resume is pretty good. I think obviously not discrediting anyone. Like there's a little bit of luck that goes into that. You know what I mean? And back to that 5-inning, the rain delays in Florida and the 5-inning game stuff. But yeah, you still got to play and you still got to be good enough. And you still got to, you got to have a kid that is willing to listen, do what he's asked to do, go take the mound, even though he's not a pitcher. Hey man, just throw strikes, let the defense work for you, whatever. Right. Like
you have to get,
you
to win when you go to any of those big tournaments with a team like we have, or some other teams have, like the WWBA in Georgia, there's 400 something teams. There's 12 that could win.
Yeah.
Right. There might be 200 that could win a game against anybody. Yeah. But they ain't winning. They ain't running that gauntlet of 8 straight playoff games.
Right.
There's 12 teams that could win. The goal for me is just, let's try to be one of the 12.
Yeah. Get into that final.
But if you think about that, it means we're only going to win 1 out of 12 times, right? On average, right?
Yeah. No,
that's if you are one of those 12 teams.
Yeah.
Like it ain't easy.
No.
You're going to play good teams. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes they beat you.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you step up, you get hot at the right time, you get a call that goes your way.
Sometimes you beat yourself.
The other team runs out of arms. Like
baseball's
those things
a hard
all
sport.
happen, right? And it's, I mean, on the college game, no different. Think about the Tennessee team a few years ago. Like, might have been the best college team ever, and they didn't even make it to Omaha. They lose in the supers, right?
You can look at all sorts of like college teams, right?
Just
NFL team. I mean,
baseball's not a sport where the best team wins all the time in a game. Right. And so like winning definitely has an element of luck.
Yeah, there's 9 dudes on the field. You know?
I'm not saying you don't do everything possible to try to win.
For sure.
But
for sure. So I got this other question here, and I said, in the last 5 years, because that's kind of the time we've been,
Sure.
What has changed the most with running a high-level travel ball team and recruiting? I know it's 2 different things, but
sure,
kind of just
okay. Well, let's take recruiting first.
Yeah, that's
because the running a travel ball team is interesting because like we've only been doing it for 5 years, so like
right,
and the world changed in that time, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
First of all, in recruiting, God, a lot has changed, right? Like 5 years ago, let's talk pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
There's no transfer portal. There's a different roster limit. They can still go and recruit 8th graders and 9th graders, and you have all the early recruiting stuff happening. So since then, and you don't have all the old guys in college baseball because they got an extra year from COVID and then a red shirt and the roster logjam that left over. It has been progressively more transactional. Mm-hmm. College sports have gotten more transactional. Youth sports have gotten more transactional.
Right.
To the point that I think you would say it's hyper transactional now, right? Like 5 years ago, these things all happened. but it was rare when a kid decommitted
Okay.
from a school. It was rare when a school dropped a recruit. It's not rare anymore.
And that was like, do you think that was the kid decommitting? That could be a slew of things. The colleges decommitting from the kid, they probably didn't want to do that because then they would lose, people would lose faith in their commitment, right? And say, hey,
Correct.
you didn't
It was frowned upon.
Frowned upon.
Right. So I'm not saying it didn't happen. It did.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Not anywhere near the level and the amount that it's happening now. And I think you get into a spot where like all of a sudden the rosters are different. And all of a sudden there's money involved and NIL money comes into play. And everything feels more professionalized and less personal. And therefore I need to win or I get fired. Right at the highest levels.
Yeah, these coaches and these people recruiting.
Let's be honest also, like the money got pretty real for those guys, right? You've got college coaches making $3 million a year in baseball. Not many.
Yeah.
But like.
There's a couple.
There weren't very many. Like there was one or two making $1 million a year 5 years ago.
Right.
Not that long ago, right? We're not talking 20 years ago, 5 years ago.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah.
So, all of a sudden you've got, hey, if I really win, this is life-changing stuff.
Right.
And that creates a different level of pressure and maybe a different willingness to be transactional, right? in doing what you're doing. And you've got alumni and boosters saying, your budget is win a national championship.
Yeah. You don't have a budget. Like
right.
Your budget
you don't have a budget, but like you get fired if you don't win a national championship, and we'll give you millions and millions and millions if you do. Like, well, now you're incentivized to go get the best players and do what you need to do. You do that at a time that the transfer portal opens where guys no longer have to sit a year.
Right.
So like, listen, I've been friends with Jay Johnson for a long time since he was an assistant coach at San Diego.
Okay.
He's a great guy.
He's a phenomenal recruiter, right? I mean,
LSU, and he's a great coach. And LSU doesn't win a national title if they don't have Tommy White and Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
And those guys were transfer portal guys. Not illegal, not unethical. I'm just telling you, like,
but you had a guy that knew how to go out and get those guys.
Sure. But like they had a great team without Paul, who played at Air Force, and Tommy, who played at NC State, right? And a couple other guys. But like those two come to mind most present. They don't win that title. Jay's contract and career, whatever he got from that, isn't the same if they don't win that title, right?
Yeah, you could easily, I mean, the numbers are out there, right? You can easily go and say, hey, I mean, and we could leave Jay out of it, but just like hypothetically, right? 2 players on a certain team didn't have a spot anymore because we brought 2 guys in.
Correct. 2 guys got cut.
And then those 2 guys, parents that got cut are probably like, man, whatever, this blah, blah. But then the team wins, the money influx into the town, the program, everything. And then the coaching staff as a whole, right? Their now life has been
right. So I think everybody, if people are listening, like you probably understand, like, well, of course you'd take Paul Skeens, right? Every team would take Paul Skeens.
Every team, yeah.
A, he's a great kid. B, he's the best pitcher in the country, right? Duh. But then it's not just him, right? It's 100 guys at 50 different schools.
Yeah.
And now you're at, you have mid-majors that, we can bring in so on. And they're not bringing in a guy that's going to be a number 1 starter in the big leagues, but they think he's a little better than the guy you have. And it becomes much more difficult to maintain relationships and long-term developmental plans when the guy just might leave, right? If I need to give you fast results or you're gone, how can I do something that might take time, right?
Well, that seems to be the caveat now, I think, when, we started this, our 5-year plan, right? In 8th grade, 9th grade, there was these conversations and you were looking at people and go, oh, hey, man, we really like this. And then now when we actually got to recruiting, we went to places, that stuff came into play, right?
So,
it was kind of
obviously like recently, and it affected, I think, first the 26 class, there's a rule change where now they can't talk to anybody about recruiting until August 1st going into their junior year. Okay. As you know, in 8th grade and 9th grade, like recruiting was already going on.
Yeah, there was conversations,
heavy, right? So when we were at the freshman World Wood Bat, all freshmen, there's 80 schools there.
Right.
When we're at the freshman World Wood Bat this year, there's 0 schools there.
So that's a point that,
which I'm great with the change, but it's a massive change, right? It's all happening later now. et cetera, et cetera. So you have some specific rules, and then the older guys, the transfer portal, there's new rules coming in. There's going to be more new rules by the time your kid's done playing college baseball, and I don't know what they're going to be.
Now, I heard that, and if I'm wrong, and this will probably be a question for you, and hopefully it doesn't hinder you guys, but so that wood bat for the kids that the schools can't talk to, and now the schools aren't there, that used to be there.
Yep.
Does it make, you say, hey man, maybe that trip's not worth going to now because we used to want to go to that for
it this. Does. I think what you end up with is going okay, so we don't have to chase exposure, which is awesome.
Yes.
What are we chasing? And the answer is we're chasing competition.
Okay.
Right. Should there be competition in the West? There should, but there isn't.
Okay.
There's a million good players out West. There's no reason that we shouldn't have events that are cheap enough to go to that are great, but we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you still then are left with do I want to be in Georgia for 9 days in 105-degree heat, playing a bunch of mediocre games to get to play a few good games? Not really.
Right.
But it's my best option.
Okay.
Right?
So you still like it for the competition aspect.
I think it's the only reason to go. And I also we're taking, for the first time, we're actually taking, and we have two teams, the Alpha Prime and the Alpha Power. We're taking the power teams, the freshman and sophomore, to the WWBA.
And so the conversation is not about
recruiting. We can eliminate the FOMO part.
Yeah.
Right? You've been there and now you see that it's fine.
Yeah.
Right?
And you got to experience it.
And now when
it
actually matters for your kid, you're not going, have us go to the WWBA, because I know that's not going to do your kid any good, because no SEC or big time ACC school is going to be interested in him. He needs to be out West in front of, the mid-majors that are actually going to recruit him that summer.
That brings up a great, and I don't know how you've done it, but just when you're talking to parents and they feel like I had to have a conversation with the parent the other day, and I'm like, man, your son's great, but I don't have any skin in the game. And so I feel hopefully they took it the right way, where I was just hey, I wouldn't bother going to the East Coast, or going to this school's program until you look like a certain thing or you do a certain thing. Yeah. And I'm sure people get oh, what an asshole, because just your kid's this and that. Yeah, I'm sure they do, right?
Not just to you, to me too.
Right. But it is hard to be honest with people. And I don't have the same experience. I mean, you have 1,000 times more, but it is easier sometimes to just be hey, listen, if you're willing to listen to this advice that I have for you, that's it.
I think that's how it has to be, right? I can't remember what I say when I don't tell people the truth, but I always I'll remember what I thought.
Right.
So I can get myself in trouble with it, but if you came to me and asked me a question, I'm going to assume that you wanted me to tell you what I actually think, right?
Right.
Because you just shouldn't have asked me if you didn't want to know.
Yeah.
And I think I have that reputation too. So I think
for sure.
I think, if people are just looking for attaboys, I'm probably not the guy they're going to, right?
Right.
But those conversations don't always get received well, right? You're talking about, parents' perceptions of their child.
Yeah.
Versus my perceptions are probably not the same. Some value that. Some probably value it and are pissed off, and some are just pissed off.
Yeah, and I mean the analogy that always comes to mind to me. You look online or you go on these. We now are living in a world where Angel and I always say "Hey, don't read the comments." We took that from Joe Rogan, right? Because he was "Hey, don't read the comments," because it'll drive you nuts, right? But every kid that throws 99 online, right, has some parent that's "Oh, but does he throw strikes? My kid paints the corners and he throws 75," and you're dude, that's awesome. Be happy for your kid. You don't have to bag on the other kid, and vice versa, but understand that your painted corner 75 isn't going to get the same attention.
And there's been points when you ask me the truth, hey, what, how's this going to go? I owe you my version, my opinion of the truth. If I bullshit you, how the hell am I serving you? How am I serving your kid? How am I doing the job that you?
No, I think you called it a bloodbath, right? That was great. It's hey, these guys are going to go to college in this 25 class, and it's going to get tough, because all the rules, they're in a washing machine right now. They think, it's you ever put your clothes in the dryer and
it's going to be a bloodbath before then.
They're going to be done in 10 minutes. It's it's been 15 minutes, dude, and it hasn't happened. So I
mean, you're basically left with, well, what are your options? You can't game this system.
No.
right? Like the system's changing anyway. You can't even anticipate what the system's going to be.
Just be
if
good.
Because you're going to be in the spot. Your kid's a senior. He's a really good player. He's going to a prestigious school. I guarantee you there's a parent of a freshman that's going, hey, Joe, what should we,
Yeah.
And like, you don't know. You know how it worked for him.
And I'm like, hey, dude, what I thought as a freshman and what I think now,
Right.
or I'm in
and
two
I'm
different
telling
worlds.
you that the rules are going to be different.
Yeah.
So the world
Right.
is going to be different for that dude by the time he gets there.
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't mean that they can't listen to you, but like, it's not necessarily going to be the same. You're talking about how's it different than 5 years ago. And we've talked for 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so you're left with, you have to be undeniable. That's the only way through this, right? Like, that means like, be intentional about what you're doing, be prepared, be present, and be really, really good.
Yeah.
If you're not those things, like, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And like, oh yeah, but we know so-and-so. Like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a funny one where people always go, and coaches, we saw it more in the softball world, but it was like, oh, hey, I have a great reputation. I have a great relationship with this coach at this college.
Yeah.
And and it's like, well, that coach at that college, no matter how good of a friend they are of yours, like they may take your call,
So
but still got to be
I always
undeniable.
get amused by it.
That's a
and
good point.
I always get amused by it because I feel like sometimes like people now doing this alpha thing, like they think that like there's some sort of like secret magic sauce, right? Because we've had a lot of Division I commits. Like, here's the deal. They're Division I commits because they're good, not because of us, right? I'm not saying we didn't do a good job for them, but like,
No, but that's probably the truest thing you'll hear someone say.
Professional friends with Thomas Eager, who's the recruiting coordinator and coach at Stanford. I
Great.
coached with him.
Phenomenal
Okay.
guy.
I like him. We respect each other, whatever. The idea that I can tell him who to take is laughable.
Right.
Okay. Like
right.
his job is to evaluate for himself.
Yeah. How
and
he
to meet
feeds
guys
his family
and see
how
them
he,
and all that.
100%.
So what you can get, and I'm using that as an example, but what somebody can get with a connection, hey, this guy played there, this guy coached with this guy, is you can get him to come see you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. There is not recruiting that's being done by word of mouth. It doesn't work that way in Division I.
It's kind of like
baseball.
the interview, right? And there is some of that to be said. Like, hey, who you know does matter.
It does.
And I can get you
It
an
can
interview.
get you in a door.
I can get you an interview, but once you're in the interview, you got to be good.
So this is before Alpha. Like, I'm coaching a kid. He ended up being a wonderful D2 player. I was his high school coach.
Okay.
And he asked me if I would call, I think it was Auburn. He goes, would you call Auburn for me? I go, no.
Right.
He's upset. He's my dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's upset. He's like, why? I'm like, what would you want me to tell them? Hey, I got a guy for you. Okay, tell me about him. He's a 5'11" right-hander who throws 83 to 87. And he's got average command, and he's a really good kid. Like, how do you think that conversation's going to go?
Yeah,
They're going to hang up on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Like, you're not good enough for them. I'm sorry. Like,
I had a funny conversation with one of the national recruiters for a softball program, and the guy's been great to me. He lives out in Georgia, and he was telling me about a time where a ACC school called and said, "Hey, tell me about this player of yours." And he said, "She's not good enough, for your program." And he goes, we saw her, we really loved her, like, dugout presence,
Sure.
Spark plug and just da-da-da-da. And he said, well, hell, like, if that's what you're looking for, she's a SEC All-American, teammate, this and that. And he said she ended up going to that school. The conversation was way different. Hey, this is the offer is to come here and be on the team. And we really need you I think it was a bullpen and something like that. But, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So there are, I think, avenues or aspects of just being a good coach, having good rapport, being honest with these schools and not
like,
BSing.
you can disagree.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, you ask me what I think, and I have to be able to say that and know, let's just say I got a call about your son.
Yeah.
I have to be able to give that college coach an honest evaluation and know that he's not going to be on the phone with him and go, hey, I talked to your travel coach and he said your curveball isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Because now that dude's on another team, right?
Yeah.
And the college coach needs to know that he can tell me, hey, I'm concerned about this, and know that I'm not calling that kid's dad and going, hey, the coach at so-and-so said your kid's breaking ball sucks, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, we have to tell the truth, but not the whole truth.
No, I think you and I know you may not remember this. We brought up Eager because that guy was great to Joey. I mean, he's phenomenal. You know, I loved the idea of Stanford, the whole thing. And then not luckily, whatever. Joey wasn't a Stanford student, right? But I remember a time where I called you. I said, "Hey, I think we're getting close." And you're like, "Wait, what? Like, what's close?" And so we had this really specific, honest dialogue. And I realized, okay, awesome. What I think and what you think and what he thinks, we're in a circle, but the circle's not as tight as I thought, or whatever, And so we said, oh, well, I think he said 83 or something, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We're at 81, and okay, cool. But I did always appreciate that about with you specifically, with Eager, I thought was honestly great too, because you don't always get that.
Thomas is a wonderful
and you get we've had way different ones.
Sure.
We've had some way,
Sure.
just some ones where you're like, what happened? Because I thought we were here and we're not there. So, I thought we were not there and we're here.
I just try to remember in every walk of life, this includes college baseball or softball coaches, right?
Yeah.
I don't know any college softball coaches, but I'm sure it's true. There are some that are great, all-time greats, elite at everything they do. There are some that are god-awful. Like they can't communicate, they can't coach, they're bad. Most are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, it's like real estate.
And like
there's good realtors and there's really bad realtors. And you're like,
and there's in between, right?
Yeah, how do you do your job?
And they can do one part of it well, but they struggle at the other. Hey, he's a great coach, he's a great guy, but the communication. Hey, he means well, or yeah, he can really communicate, but he's a bad guy, right?
Yeah,
Like there is a full gamut of that, and like you're not going to know because I can't come on a podcast or even a conversation and be like, oh, the coach at so-and-so is a real jerk.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah. Well, there's definitely vibes.
And that's an opinion too, right?
Like, that's what I mean. There's you go to meet people and we saw it, right? We went to 3 different schools. We got 3 different point of views. And luckily, Joey meshed up with one,
Sure.
And had we guessed beforehand, oh, I think he's going to like this, or I think we would have been totally wrong.
Right.
And you got to go live it, walk it, touch it. I mean, I think when it comes to recruiting in colleges, do you agree? Like you really need to get out there and check out the school and the vibe.
Of course.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, the trick is obviously like we live in this Instagram world, right? And the day your kid commits is a good Instagram day for him, right? Everyone says nice things, and tomorrow they don't give a crap. Right?
It's all done. Yeah.
Right. But you have to live 3 years or more of your life there, right? Like that, the Instagram stuff goes away, right? Like this is a life decision. Like you got to make a home there. Is this the place that you can take off as a young man, as a player,
right?
Whether it's facilities or location or coaching staff or academics or whatever your reasons or mix of reasons are, does it feel right? Like how the hell can you know that from a phone call?
Yeah, you can't. I think I told you.
You can know which one seems more prestigious on Instagram.
Yeah, and that's like everybody's social media life, right? I mean, you're always hitting a home run and you're never striking out. You're always throwing a CG no hitter. You never got blown up in the first inning and didn't make it out.
Like to use that as an example, like Joey's summer last summer, right? He had a great summer and it went, I think, largely how I told you it was going to go.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of like, good. Hey, as soon as he gets out there, we're fine. Right. Instantly. Like how many schools were at the exhibition game we threw at Duke? I think it was just Duke.
Yeah.
But how many offers and calls did he get that night?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
more than Duke, right? Like,
yes.
Like,
yes.
I think it was 5.
Yes,
okay. But
it was
right.
It was
a week and a half before that, he stunk out loud at the Potters game.
That's right. That's right. I think, he did. He had hit a couple numbers, but it wasn't like.
But like, it wasn't pitchable. It wasn't good.
Good.
And then he was really good, and he kept that in his 3 outings.
Yeah.
Outside of that, he was great.
Yeah. Because he pulled off 3 in a row. It was like, here you go, boom, boom, boom. And
but it just took one for the 6'5".
It only takes
for the 6'5" lefty.
Yeah.
Who throws in the 90s.
And you got to know though.
Now,
too,
if you're the 5'10" righty who throws 88,
it's a different.
They have to see you be good 20 times.
Right.
And like that's unfair, but it's how it is.
And life is unfair though. We talk about that, right?
Right.
So with all this stuff and what we've talked about, I mean, any advice to the younger crowd, like, hey, you have and I think I had that as one of
Yeah,
these
that's
questions, right? Is like, hey, with, what advice would you give the 8 to 10U parents when it comes to the intensity and the travel?
Well, I mean, I've probably ignored more advice than just about anybody in my life. So I don't
take this advice. I'm not using
I don't
it.
feel,
My sister
I don't
loves that.
feel great about like trying climbing on top of the mountain and preaching at people, but I'll just share some observations, I guess. Like, first of all, every journey will be different.
Yep.
You know, I don't like, I've coached for 27 years. I don't think kids have changed, but everything around them has changed.
That's
the cultural, to steal my friend Jason Sakani's line, the cultural assignment of what has value has changed. Distractions have changed. The phones have changed a lot of that. The incentives have changed. So, in terms of how much to travel and spend, like, I think it's different for every family. The world is what it is, and it's going to change again over the next few years. Like, do what is fun for you and your kid. Do what you can afford. Don't do the stuff that isn't fun for you or that you can't afford.
Right.
You don't have to. You can make it from any path. You don't have to play, even in high school, you don't have to play with Alpha to be a Division I player or a college player or a team like us. You don't have to. You have to be really good.
Yeah, right.
Right? You should do this if this is what helps you be really good. And this is fun and your family can swing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't do it for the other reasons. I would tell them you can't game the system. There is no one right way, but stop looking for the secret.
Yeah.
There is no effing secret. Like,
the secret is be good.
The secret is be good and figure out what it means to be good for your kid. And that process takes some time. I think I wrote a couple little notes just to make sure I didn't say anything stupid, right? Like, I probably did anyway. But
yeah, exactly.
Stay focused on what matters. Would be, if I had to give advice, like that's it in a nutshell. Like,
what matters? Getting better or winning?
Is it fun for them?
Okay.
Because they ain't going to do the hard stuff if it isn't fun at those ages.
Yep.
They're going to quit the damn sport. Okay. They're going to stop working at it if it isn't fun. And are they improving?
Yeah.
Right. Are you seeing them level up on a regular basis? And are they enjoying the process of leveling up? Like, incentivize the things that will scale, incentivize work ethic, reward that, right? Like, if you're only rewarding hits,
yep,
right?
Yep.
You're effing up.
Yeah, you should be rewarding the BP or the time or the effort that you put in.
You should be yes, like, drive and their desire to make it is what's going to help them. The natural talent you can't control. They can develop the skill earlier or later. Not a bad thing to do.
Right.
But like, they're not professionals yet. Don't try to train them like them.
Right.
Don't try to like coach them like them. They're kids. Understand how kids learn things, how kids come to do it. They mess it up. They fall down. Pick them up. Mess it up again.
Right.
They fall down. You pick them up. They mess it up again, and then they figure it out. Right. Like, so the failure is good.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you can't disincentivize failure. My funniest example, which I hadn't thought of in years. So I started off coaching at the bottom of the coaching rung, right? Like,
like everybody, I think.
The first team that I coached was a 10U Little League team. I was an assistant coach on a 10U Little League team. Our best player was a girl. Now, she was actually pretty good, but
yeah.
Like, I don't know that there's a lot lower in the coaching tree. Okay. Like,
yeah. Little League.
So this is maybe 2 years in, and we're in Little League fall ball. This is supposed to be as low key as it gets. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the first at bat of Little League fall ball. This little 11-year-old boy is up, and there's his dad sitting by the fence, and he's a very nice guy, but he's so nervous. And he's so nervous, and he's trying to cheer, and he's trying to be positive, and his fingers are going through the fence. And right as the pitcher like comes set, he goes, "Hit 333 and I'll buy you a dog."
Oh, Jesus.
I always swore if I wrote a book about it, like Like that will be the title. Hit 333 and I'll buy you a dog. Not a hot dog, a dog, right? Like let me get my kid focused on an external goal that he can't even reach today, right? Like
that's
this
wild.
manic thing that's in my head as being important. Like don't make your anxiety his anxiety. Don't make your anger and frustration his problem. They're not his problem. He's got his problems.
That's a great
He's
point,
got to
man.
play a really hard game against guys that are trying to kick his ass.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
everybody wants to win. That's why they're playing.
right. So like there's all this stuff
Man,
that
that's a
goes
good way
into
of putting it.
parenting that is understandable. But like as a dad that really cares, like, hey man, like button your shit up.
Yeah.
Like do it. Don't do it for me. Do it for him.
Yeah.
You know, like it ain't his problem. You're making your shit his shit.
You're making your shit. That's a good way of putting it. I mean, because you think like that is, and it happens. I mean, I think it was last year. I forget where I read it, but it really stuck to me where I was like, hey, you know, your kids' failures are actually their biggest like learning moments, you know?
Absolutely.
And so if you as a parent, you know, because I almost I live and die with their successes and failures, but like, man, when they fail, it hurts me, you know, because I know how hard they want it. And as a father, I want them to get what they want.
I think as coaches and teachers,
100%.
you feel similarly, like maybe not with the same intensity
No,
level.
but yeah,
it's
you
similar.
know
Like,
they want it and you
I
care
don't
for them.
want them to fail.
Yeah, it's
I want
empathy.
them
It's
to
empathy,
succeed,
yeah.
right? But like I understand that failure is part of it and it's not final. And I don't want them to feel like it's final because like it isn't.
It was Dawn, it's the head coach at South Carolina women's basketball. She's the one that's Dawn Stanley. Yeah, she said, you know, a lot of you guys don't let your kids fail and it shows, right?
Yep.
Because when they get here, there's no parents to help them, you know?
Right.
And I thought, gosh, what a great point. Like I should not embrace, but understand that when they fail here at home, at least I'm here to catch them. You know what I'm saying? At least I'm here to say, hey, what'd you think? And kind of just get an idea from them to help mold it so that when they are in the house, they know how to handle it.
So I look at this, I look at like coaching and setting up team culture this way. I wonder if it applies to parenting. Like, you know, coaches, we sometimes try to control everything, right, that's happening.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not really realistic, right? What we really ought to be doing is setting up the boundaries of it. Think of it as like bumper lanes in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Right? As long as they're in between the two, I got to let them figure it out, right? But they're not going to go further than here, and they're not going to go further than here.
That's a good point.
I'm not going to let them go outside of like what I know, and everybody's got to figure out how tight they make the bumpers.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like we can disagree about, you know, well, you know, Adam, you like it loose, like yeah, because I'm trying to teach them to do it for themselves, right? That freedom is part of it, but like it's not completely free. Right? Like they can't go further than here and here. Right? As long as they're inside that, like they can be idiots.
Right.
Because that's part of them figuring out the path and figuring out how it needs to work for them. I think that probably applies to parenting as well.
You know, you definitely want to try and control everything. And as soon as you learn that you're really not in control, it's almost easier because then you realize, hey, I think that's a great way to put it, man. You sit in the bumpers. Like, okay, I'm not gonna let you fall off the cliff.
Like there's this word, I mean, you've heard it, like, and obviously your son trains at a great place and they, you know, we do development, right?
Yeah.
Like development. What is development?
Yeah.
Like you're developing every second.
Right.
Right? Like you develop in games. You develop in practice. You develop sitting on the couch at home watching a ball game.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
development is an ever-present process for a young man, right?
For sure. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And so it's like this idea that like, oh, development only happens in a sterile indoor batting cage, you know, with green carpet and, you know, it has to be 68 degrees and that it's bullshit.
No, and I can tell you that like Joey's biggest success.
That doesn't mean they don't do a good job.
No, but it came when he was off. You know what I'm saying? It came when he was injured and he was out. And so, you know, as when Joey was young, and Z would always tell me like, hey, he's getting better at practice, not in these games. Don't always sign him up for these games. Cause you know, we were like, hey, we didn't meet a game we didn't like, you know what I mean? Oh, competition. And then it took years to understand that like, well, there's a fine balance there, you know.
And what's right for your son and your family might be different than what's right for the family across the street and their son, right? And so
100%.
we all want to, well, this was right for me. I believe you.
Yeah.
But like, don't judge anybody else because they've got to go figure it out and navigate it. And yeah, they're going to make some mistakes along the way. And maybe they play too much and maybe they don't. here's what I can tell you from 25 years of watching tournaments and watching the cycles of players come through and guys that I coached or guys that I just saw. There were guys who never played travel ball who were in the big leagues. There are guys who pitched 13 innings in a weekend back in the day, not with me coaching.
Yeah.
But 13 innings in a weekend, every weekend, 48 weeks a year, who are in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Right?
It happened to
there's
work
a
for
kid in
them,
the big leagues who used to sit in front of Twin Creeks with his dad and wait for a team to pick him up for the weekend. I asked him once how many jerseys he had in his closet, and he said 108.
Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, we're all trying to figure out. I would always use this.
Like, that seems crazy to me.
100%.
But my point is, like,
100%.
Before you judge it, just know that it can work. And before you judge the dad who goes, none of that matters. We're going to hit on Friday nights. We're not doing any of this stupid. Fair. That was the right thing for them, potentially. And they figure, you figure it out. I have seen guys who were what we would all call abused in terms of their usage.
Yeah.
Blow out and have Tommy John. I have seen the most carefully managed arms you can imagine that never threw more than 40 pitches and never threw that many innings and over followed, also blow out and have Tommy John.
I always felt that way. Like we were in that same boat where I was always cognizant, right? We played 3 sports. We didn't even play baseball year round, and it still happened, And I used to use this analogy a lot as a cop, and I think it helped me, understand that you meet people and you see the outcome and you just judge, you just think.
And by the way, those two examples, the guy that threw 13 innings a weekend and the guy that 40 pitches, those guys both pitched in the big leagues.
Yeah.
They also pitched in the big leagues after they blew out and had Tommy John.
That's
surgery,
a nice thing.
Surgery sucks, but
it's not a
your
period.
Kid went through it, and it's also like, it's not death.
Yeah, you didn't die. You didn't die.
It's not something we're seeking, but we spend so much time being terrified of it, and we don't know how to stop it yet. I know everybody's got their theory. I even have a theory. It doesn't matter. Right? Like, it's part of what we're dealing with. If you're going to push the envelope and you're going to try to be you're going to push your body to the limit of what it can do, which is what it takes to be an elite performer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it breaks, right? So you start with this vision. Let's say you're a hitter, right? There's the Mount Rushmore, and there's Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
And there's Ted Williams, and there's Barry Bonds, and there's you. Right. And that's what you're going for, right? You're going to push your body to the absolute limit. You're going to do things that you probably shouldn't do to do that. Right. And the breaking is part of it. As much as it sucks, as terrible as it is, right? Like, what was right for your son who's trying to be an elite athlete and one of the best in the world might not be the same answer as the guy that's very happy being an average player on a high school baseball team, enjoying the experience, getting a few hits, maybe getting a walk-off at some point. Like, they're chasing it in a totally different way. And we got to back off of them and, you got to go play for, Like, no, they don't. Like,
well, you've seen that though, where, the parent is the one driving it. And you're like, hey, this is going to end sooner than it should because the wrong person's in the driver's seat.
Right. It's something, I don't know if you remember, like, I think I said it to the parents on the 25 team last year on our parent meeting. Like, listen, like, I know you guys have done this, right? Done all these trips. You've been to all these places. It's old hat for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just remember, in a year, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. No, we talk. I mean,
like,
I'm
enjoy the last ride.
Yeah.
Like, it's the last ride. It's the last time they get to do this. Yeah. We got some work to do. Yeah. We got to take care of them. Yeah. We got to help try to get them a little more ready for college than they are, because they're clearly not ready now. Right. Even though they're great players, but like, it's okay to enjoy that ride with them. Like, in fact, like, I strongly encourage it, because you'll be really pissed at yourself if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like, I think in closing, the funny part is that I would always say, hey, the kids don't come with instructions, and I would use that in the cop world too.
Sure.
Like, hey man, they don't come with instructions. You're trying your best. I assure you, as a parent, you want the best for your kid. As the coach, you want the best for your players.
Right.
Otherwise, why are you coaching? And at OA, they always, Ryan would say, oh man, if you're worried about getting hurt, then don't play. Right. Because that's the only way to prevent. And not everybody gets injured, but people get hurt.
I'll also tell you that, like, I'm convinced that the guys that are more concerned about getting hurt get hurt more.
Oh yeah, it's got to be a psychological thing.
Like,
You're just
I can't. I'm not that guy. Like I can't prove it, but that's how it seems like.
yeah.
Also, guys that aren't concerned about getting hurt get hurt. So like
there's a balance, right? There's that thing.
I once coached.
Hey,
I once
don't be
coached,
reckless
on a
and don't
team
be
with
too nervous.
one of the parents on the team was a really high level, I think, spine surgeon.
Oh, okay.
And excellent doctor, right? And we had a kid on the team who was always, quote, getting hurt, but he wasn't actually hurt.
Right.
Right. And something happens on a base, the doctor comes out, he goes, I think you should go get an x-ray. Like I think it might be broken. And I looked at him kind of funny. He goes, hypochondriacs get hurt too.
Because you're thinking,
come on, this dude cries 4 times a game, like what are we doing? He's like, I think he's actually hurt this time.
Like, well, then maybe I should take your
it might
advice,
be the 40th time, but the 40th time's the charm. He's actually hurt.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on. I think we're at the hour 15-minute mark. So yeah.
So I don't have to criticize you for a 2-hour podcast.
No, exactly. I mean, someone will listen to the end and they'll hear it through. But thank you as always. Thanks for everything you've done for our family. I know you've been a great resource for me, a great coach to Joey, and so we appreciate you.
All right, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Bye.